Hello everyone. Welcome, beautiful earbud coven. How are you today? I'm glad you're here to join us. I have the beautiful Emily Kady here with me today. She is an intuitive medium. She channels. She has got the most amazing YouTube channel because she supports women who are recovering themselves, I would say. She helps intuitives with their boundaries, with leaving toxic relationships, with understanding themselves and growing. She's such a nurturing soul. I'm so excited to have her today. And we are talking about a near-death experience she had that is such a, oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. And I want her to share it with you. Hi, Emily. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Jody Ann, for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity.
I'm really excited that you're here. You are the first person we've had on the Witching Half Hour, so talking about this topic. I just love your story because it's so powerful. So, can you walk me through it? Can you talk to me about your experience with near death?
Yeah, absolutely. It was in 2015. I was going to the doctor's office for just a minor procedure. And while I was at the doctor's office, I was injected with medication. I don't want to go into details because I don't want to trigger anyone or still fear into people.
Totally. Yes.
And as I was injected, all of a sudden I started to feel really woozy and nauseous and lightheaded. And I thought I was going to faint, but I'm like, I've fainted before, but this was like amplified by like 1,000. All these symptoms were just so intense. I remember trying to tell my doctor, I need help, but nothing would come out of my mouth. I also remember thinking, I have to somehow put my head between my legs to get the blood back to my head. I couldn't move. And as I was sitting there, just in this complete discomfort, out of nowhere, I just went into this black space. I went from like being completely uncomfortable to complete nirvana. There was just no pain, nothing. And as I was in this space, I finally was like, I felt whole. I did not have an experience where I could see my body. I didn't know what my body was going through, and I didn't care. I was just floating in this black space. And as I'm floating up, all of a sudden I see this a light that I was floating towards. And as I was floating towards it, I saw a silhouette standing in front of the light. And what I like to talk about is how I knew I was supposed to go connect with this being, and I had no fear in me. There was nothing holding me back. But if I was on this 3D plane, on a woman in a dark alley with a silhouette standing at the end of it, I'd be scared. I'd be running the opposite direction. But in the spiritual realm, I was just like so free.
I have a quick question because I know you're intuitive. Had you already been working on your skills as a medium? Like, were you familiar with the spiritual aspect of life when this happened?
I love that question. Nobody's ever asked that of me. So in my early years, like childhood, I could see and talk to spirits on a regular basis. I was constantly talking to them. At one point, I had multiple spirits talking to me all at once. Finally, at one point, I said, "You guys have to stop. You're making me think I'm crazy." I was such an open vessel for them. They stopped.
Mm-hmm.
They completely stopped.
Because they listen to us.
They listen, they honor, and they respect us. Even the earthbound spirits and the lower realm spirits, they have to. So you have so much power to protect yourself. And then, so here's a little 7, 8-year-old kid telling them to stop, and they stopped. And then they came back in my 20s. In my 20s, I went back and I started going into massage school, and I became an aromatherapist and acupressurist, all these things. I just really was drawn to it. So I had some foundation to this, but this happened in my later 30s. And when I was in this place, I was actually not spiritually active. I had a spiritual foundation, but I had kind of walked away.
Okay. I think lots of people do that. I think that's a very typical it doesn't feel like it when you're in it, but I think that's a very typical arc for a lot of people who are open as children. They kind of take a step back and then they come back around to it. So thank you for that. So now let's go back.
Yes.
You're in this nirvana void
Yeah.
and you see this being.
Yeah, I see this being. I'm floating towards it. There's no hesitation, just pure love, pure like joy to be in this moment. And then all of a sudden I had this thought cross my mind. I thought, oh my gosh, my mom, my dad, and my beloved dog Buster are going to be just devastated when they find out I transitioned. As an empath, we often we're concerned about everybody else's feelings, not necessarily our own. But it was a weird detachment because I was concerned for them, but I didn't feel their feelings. You're an empath. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
We feel their feelings.
yes, we do.
And I realized I didn't feel their feelings, and I go, oh my gosh, I feel full for the first time in my life. I can respect where somebody's at emotionally, but I don't have to take it on as my own.
Okay, I want you to say that again for everyone in the Earbud Coven, all of my new baby witches, and all you deep feeling empaths.
Yes. What did I say? I said,
Oh my God, you're so awesome. You can the
yes,
differentiation,
I can basically hold space for them but not take on their feelings. I didn't have to make their feelings mine.
and you would still be aware of their feelings, but you're not taking them into your auric system. You're not taking them into your body. You're not owning their feelings like yours.
Right? It was so empowering. The most empowering feeling I've ever had in my entire life because I had spent my entire life swimming in everybody else's emotions and trying to navigate what is mine and what is theirs.
Yeah.
And feeling like this draw or this addiction to always take on people's emotions.
Mm-hmm. Because as an empath, one of the things that's interesting is we are incredibly powerful and we are able to, I guess the metaphor I want to use is if emotions are weights, we can like Arnold Schwarzenegger lift. We are really, really strong.
You're so strong.
But just because we can doesn't mean we must.
Exactly.
But when you don't know how to differentiate, when you come into this world so open and beautiful, it's really quite a skill and it's really hard to learn what is mine and what is
It
theirs.
really is extremely difficult. And the other thing too is understanding when we're taking on theirs and making it ours to help them, we're actually enabling them and making things worse for them.
That is such wisdom, sister. You're not actually healing someone by doing their work for them. You're actually disempowering
Yeah,
them.
exactly. Yeah. So I would have never have had this revelation if I didn't have this near death experience and being able to detach my feelings from my loved ones.
Wow.
My guides showed me three timelines though for each of them and showed me it was like they were showing me thermometers that had the liquid mercury in them.
Okay.
And the liquid mercury was showing me how long each of the three of them were going to be in like crippling grief. And I saw that it was a portion of each of their lives. It wasn't going to be the balance of their life.
So you were shown three separate pathways.
Of my loved ones, my mom, my dad, and my dog. Because I was still concerned for their grief. And I was like at this exit point of, okay, can I transition or not? Do I need to come back for them? Even though I don't feel their feelings, but I just wanted the confirmation they were going to be able to survive this.
And you saw their grief
I saw their grief timelines.
and they showed you like as a like a thermometer.
Yes, and it was on the liquid mercury where the liquid mercury stopped. It was like, and that was just like where it was crippling for them. And then
Right.
it was like the day that they would be able to smile again.
Oh my God, what a beautiful thing to know.
Yeah, yeah, that they're not going to always be in grief. And as an empath, for us to know that they can get through their own pain on
Hmm.
their own, and that they will be able to smile again.
Yeah.
So I was shown that, so I said, okay, I'm going to transition. I'm ready. So I started to go, and then out of nowhere, this force was pushed pushed me back into my physical body. When I woke up in the exam room, my doctor had to resuscitate me. What happened to me was I was having a grand mal seizure. I stopped breathing, I stopped everything, and she had to actually resuscitate me. So she brought me back.
Wow.
I was very angry for a very long time that I was brought back. But being brought back, I had amnesia. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who my doctor was. I didn't understand the concept of like the walls around me, these stark white exam room with these walls that were very confining. In the spiritual realm, everything is expansive. There's just like no limitations. And it's full of love. And it just is like, it's incredible. And then here I'm on this earth and it's dense and it's confining and it's limiting and it's everything opposite. So it was just this crazy like experience of the two realms that I had to figure out how to navigate back into my physical body and navigate and remember who I was. I eventually remembered, okay, I think I'm Emily because my doctor's yelling Emily. I didn't even know what a doctor was, to be honest with you. None of it made sense to me. It took time, but I eventually goes, okay, I guess I'm Emily. So I took that as my identity and started to, you know, reacclimate into this body in this life.
So the timeline on Earth that that would have taken, like, are we talking just within that doctor's office or?
Minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, just within minutes of like having the memory come back. Yes, but no. Yes, I had to. I kind of associated with it, but it took me months to kind of really figure out who I was, but I was never the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about that transition. I don't want to give away the story.
Yeah. So prior to the my NDE, I was married to a man and I still do love him. I really do, but you know, he was narcissistic and he's no longer with us. He's in the spirit realm now. But I was married to him. I didn't think about him in my transition.
That's very telling.
Yeah, I know.
In nirvana, in a state of nirvana,
I didn't think of
that
my husband.
person didn't come, the narcissistic person you were married to did not come into your experience.
No,
Wow.
right?
That's a sign if you ever got a sign.
Right. Exactly. I was
Wow.
like, time to get out. I had wanted to leave the marriage for 7 years. I was with him for 12, a total of 12 years. I was wanting to leave. I could not figure out how to get out. He had medical illnesses that he was in and out of the hospital for 10 years. I was his sole caretaker. When he was in and out of the hospital, it wasn't for a day or two, it was for weeks. And then he would come home and he would be in bed for months.
Mhm.
And as an empath here, this is like an empath's dream to take care of somebody. But then when he would feel better, he would start drinking. He would start indulging in diets that were just not healthy for him. And I understand you want to feel normal, but it took everything out of me
Mhm.
to be by his side and basically see him wanting to kill himself by his behavior. So I didn't know how to leave. I had no clue how to leave. And I had one girl, a friend, and I don't even know who she is at this moment. She must have been an angel. I don't, it was so weird. One night she had told me, this is before my NDE, Emily, if you don't leave this marriage, I know you love him and you want to see him and you want to see the best for him. If you don't leave it, you're going to be the one that's sick in bed.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for that person because it really made me think. However, I still didn't have the strength to leave the marriage. After the NDE, within 6 months, I was out of that marriage.
Wow.
I
So
had
what
7 years.
What
I was a
shifted?
different person. Yeah, so what happened, and I had four different psychics tell me this over the last 10 years, and I've done my own due diligence and research on this, is the moment that I transitioned, my soul was so tired. And this happens to a lot of empaths. Our souls are so tired because we're taking on everybody else's stuff, and we like for me, what I like to see it as is like a knot, this massive black knot that I created of my life because I didn't have the power within myself to say no when I needed to, or to, exit stage left when I needed to. Instead, I stayed in the muck
Mm.
trying to help whoever navigate whatever they needed to get out of, my husband being one of them. And so as I transitioned, My soul went to rest. She transitioned. I had no interest in looking back at my body. I didn't care. I was gone. I was like, I'm going to sleep. And I was ready to transition. I had a more, what I've been told is, and I've done my own research on this and working with my guides, is I've had a mastered aspect of myself from a parallel timeline step in to help me finish out my mission here, my soul mission here on earth. So I had a walk in.
A walk-in. So let
Hmm.
me repeat that. So the idea is that Emily, who was walking around before this near-death experience, that aspect actually went to rest. And a higher, more evolved aspect of your own soul from a timeline has stepped into this timeline.
Yes,
So you're still Emily, you're just an evolved form.
I'm still Emily.
Okay, so I have so many questions. Question one, let's go back to the Black Nirvana space where
0 point.
right, where
Yeah.
everything is peaceful. The figure in the
Hmm.
doorway, is your intuition telling you that's your highest self there? Or was that like an angel guide person?
It's an angel guide.
Okay, so
Yeah.
go learning the lesson about being able to disconnect other people's feelings from your feeling. You were learning that from your guide. And
Hmm.
then when you were revived, that's when the step in came, possibly. And it's okay if you don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know all the details, but I think what I feel intuitively is the force back into my body was the new or more mastered soul was being pushed back into my body.
Wow. So this really ties into that idea that a lot of us in witchcraft know about, that there are parallel lives happening. Like we're human,
Right.
so we are on Earth in a timeline where there's past and present, and we're limited by matter and physics and Newton and Einstein and all that. However, on the spiritual realm, that doesn't exist. Like there's a lot of theories that all of our lives are happening simultaneously. That when we cross the veil, we are stepping into what feels like a past life, but it's actually happening all at the same time. So you've been able to have a different timelines high aspect come in and help you on this aspect, because we have to learn all the lessons in this evolution of the soul.
Beautifully put.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
So amazing. And so it's interesting to me as someone who does spiritual work, who does channeling and stuff, because I know we can all connect to that highest aspect of ourselves. Like when we're doing meditation, when we're doing shamanic journeys, a lot of times we go and we speak to our highest self. We get wisdom from a higher self than us. It's still us.
Hmm.
So that aspect is in this incarnation for you right now.
Absolutely. It is.
Wow.
And that aspect got me out of my marriage within 6 months. I didn't know the man. I was like, I came back into my body and I'm like, I don't even connect with you. I didn't cry when I left him. I didn't, I had no problem. I'm like, all right, you need to move. And if you don't move, I'm going to figure out, I'm moving out. I was just like, this is not working.
And so that would have been very different behavior from before,
Yes. Completely different behavior. Hmm.
from what you've shared with us. Like you were always worried about others. You were concerned about crossing over. You're like, I don't even know if I can cross over because I could hurt people.
Yes, exactly.
So that is such a transition.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, I still am an empath. I still feel people's feelings, but it's just a different perspective I have now.
Are you able to hold boundaries with their feelings?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. I know when it's not mine and I release it immediately. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
That is so beautiful. So now tell me, my dear, has your has your purpose changed?
Oh, 100%. I'm so glad you asked that because prior to, I was, as empaths, we tend to be overachievers, people pleasers. We're trying to prove our worth. We don't feel our own worth. And so we want to show everyone we're worthy. So I was an overachiever. I had two very successful businesses that I ran and operated. Those were not aligned with my purpose at all. Those were aligned with me trying to prove who I was. So not only did I leave my marriage, I also at the same time, within a year, had closed those businesses and walked away from them.
That is a huge amount of
It's
change.
crazy change. Now, the problem is that when you're a walk in, there's like this disconnect because you have this higher vibration of a soul coming in and you still have your ego. And so the ego is used to suffering. It's used to, like, that's what has been programmed, right? And so
Right.
I had to learn how to acclimate my higher vibration and rewire my brain at the same time, being my ego, rewire it to release the negativity, release the victimhood, release all of the things that had been holding me back. And so it was a huge lesson, but I will share, like, because my ego was there, I still had to make money. I let go of my businesses, but I still had to make money. But my ego's like, I have to make money. How am I going to make money? I'm going to go back to what I did. I was excellent at what I did, but I'm going to work for somebody else instead of do it for myself. Well, within 2 years of
Mm.
doing that, I got laid off. I got laid off because I was letting my ego drive me rather than trusting that there was a different purpose here and that my more mastered aspect of myself was going to take me down the path of where I needed to go. But my ego was still holding on to past ways. Does this make sense to you? I know it could be.
This does make sense. It totally does. So, what I was thinking is the idea that just because you have a higher aspect of yourself living this incarnation does not mean the work is done.
No.
There is still real, I'm getting goosebumps saying it. There's still real healing that's happening. You're still acclimating lessons. You're still integrating. You're still moving through this mundane physical world that has Newton's laws and Einstein's laws keeping us all on this planet, right? I really love that because a lot of people would think, oh, well, this high aspect came in. Now you get to be complacent and sit back. But it sounds like that is not it at all.
No, it's not.
All of this work happening.
It's a very tricky thing because you're having to acclimate the two and you start to feel crazy and you feel disconnected. I lost friends. I didn't know who I was. So I basically went into hibernation for a good year and a half. The only people I really connected with was my family. I still had a connection to my family. But yeah, you go through a change. You just everything shifts and change, and you have to understand what's going on and learn and work with people. I worked with different gurus at different stages of it to help me learn how to acclimate.
And I keep thinking as you're talking, this idea of in the shamanic community, we talk about something called a soul retrieval and soul loss, which sounds like the opposite coin to what you're talking about. So, soul retrieval is something that a shamanic practitioner will do where if there has been trauma in a life, there's a bit of a fracturing
Okay.
and a piece can almost die or go to sleep. And you'll see that in psychology as repressed memories, people feeling disconnected when people have said they felt like during a traumatic experience, like they were outside of their body.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, when they're an adult and their brain has changed, you can go as a shamanic practitioner and go reawaken that soul piece. And it's called a soul retrieval.
I love that.
And then with that, you have to do this huge integration. So let's say there was trauma, and I'm just going to use trauma with a little t
Okay.
because there's so much information happening
Right.
on the podcast right now. So a little t trauma. Let's say you're on your skateboard and you break your wrist at 7 years old. And
Right.
it's the most painful thing you've ever experienced. And it's a
Uh-huh.
shock to your body. So a little piece of that 7 year old is lost so that you can cope, right?
Yes.
So then as a shamanic practitioner, I can go and find that 7 year old piece and I can bring it back. And then the adult soul has to nurture that 7 year old. So it feels safe and it's
Mm-hmm.
a completion and a feeling of wholeness that comes back. So my client might have to spend a week on their skateboard, honoring that aspect of their life. They might have to do some coloring. They might get to watch a bunch of Marvel movies because that's what they need to do to reconnect with that aspect of themselves. So this sounds like the flip side of that, where your adult soul is in a traumatic space. And it sounds like the life was like your own words, created this ugly knot of a mess that you were waiting in.
Mm-hmm.
And then a higher aspect is coming in to assist. And I don't want to use the word rescue because I feel like that is a victim word. And this
Yeah.
feels so much more empowering. So
Mm-hmm.
this higher aspect comes in to assist you in transforming your life and
Yes.
going to the place you need to go to. And I love that lesson in there from that. But I wonder, I don't know why I keep going back to it, but I just love how you had that huge revelation of these are my feelings and these are someone else's,
It was really empowering.
right? Like it just seems like that is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That without that lesson from your guide in there, right? That was the pivot of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
That,
beautiful. There's so much. I think
yeah.
everyone in the Earbud Coven is going to have to listen to this episode twice because there is
Oh.
so much happening here. And maybe even we'll have you back to talk.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be amazing to come back. And yeah, I'm curious to find more out about this soul retrieval. Yeah, I love that. And seeing, because I really feel like that old aspect of me is asleep. I don't connect with her at all. But I'm curious to find out more about, like, is that an aspect that can come back in and fulfill where I'm at? Because I mean, it's a spiritual awakening of what I experienced. And that aspect died. Like, literally, I don't know who she is. She was a victim. She was 100% victim.
Mm,
And this aspect of me is not a victim at all.
mhm.
It's interesting, but to go back and heal that would be something I'd be very intrigued about doing and looking into.
That's so beautiful. And I want to also talk about some of the work you do. I want to give you some space to talk about that. So being in your purpose as your elevated self, living in this life, you have now started healing. I don't want to say healing others, but facilitating the healing of other people who are empathic to try to help them understand their boundaries to empower themselves as well. Can you tell me about that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love working with empaths because I know what it's like to be just drowning in emotion. And I love to work with my empaths to help them see their sensitivity as a strength, because it is. And once there's some strong boundaries and understanding who they are, then they are able to navigate life with so much more ease. It's not as heavy. It's like you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You can actually learn how to see what's going on, send your love, send, whatever healing modality you have. We all have different healing modalities. We're all, our own blueprint. But you don't have to carry that weight anymore. Carrying that weight is no longer serving you or them. And learning how to do that just really, it transforms lives. It really does. And so what I do is I work with my clients usually around 3 months, sometimes 6 months, and it's a one-on-one session that we work with. And I work with either channeling it, everything is curated specifically for my clients and where they're at. I'm meeting them where they're at. I'm not bringing in a pre-planned program. And so it's either channeling their higher self, their spiritual team, or maybe it's just a one-on-one, let's talk out through whatever they're navigating that week and just working with them. And then I give them tools that are in the quantum and the spiritual realm to help them become more empowered. And like you were talking about earlier, you were talking about the one tool from the book you had read about dealing with.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, what was the name of that book again?
Okay, so everyone in the Earbud Coven, this is our second recording because I am on
Yes.
Emily's channel. So we recorded that. So I was talking about a tool from a book called The Emotionally Abusive Relationship, where you put your hands up and you say, stop, please don't do that. I got to get in that mind frame where you put your hands up and you say, stop, just stop. I'm not going to have this conversation anymore. And you back away from the person. It's a practical tool to deal with very toxic, verbally abusive people.
Yeah, so when you were sharing that, I offer tools like that that are just it's literally they're peeling back the layers of disempowerment that we have been programmed as empaths.
Mm-hmm.
So tools like that really they'll pull back one layer at a time, but the more you do it, the more empowered and stronger you feel. And it's amazing. So I know you have experienced that just for yourself, and
Yeah.
it's life changing. But when you can be spoon fed these tools and have the support behind you to help guide you on how to use them in a healthy way, and then if it backfires or goes in the right way, you have that support just to, again, to help you navigate the situation, is basically what I do. And just, I really, really love it. I think it's so important for us empaths. We are all light workers. We are here to bring light to this really intense, dense time that Earth is going through this transformation. So the more of us that have our lights turned on bright, it's going to make this transition that Mother Earth is going through so much easier. So that is my mission.
So, in this moment here with us, is there a little tip that you could offer everyone in the Earbud Coven, just when they're feeling disempowered, when they're feeling a bit shaken, how to recenter and just connect with their bright, beautiful, powerful
Yeah.
selves?
So one of the things that I absolutely love to do is I love to connect with our heart center because our brain, if it's in overdrive and it's just constantly playing the same loop of doom and gloom, we can't get out of it. So I like to turn off the brain and go into the heart. And one of the things I do is I work with my clients in creating a heart breath where they're literally just breathing in for a count of 4 into their heart, holding it for 4, and then exhaling for 4. And sometimes I will tell them just envision like a golden light coming into your heart, holding it, and then exhale. And just do that for a count of 3. It doesn't, so a count of 4 in, hold for 4, and exhale for 4, but do it 3 times. What that does is it resets your nervous system, it gets you out of your brain, and it gets you into your body. And it's amazing how just that short little practice can help reset your nervous system and stop that loop. And then the more you practice it, like this is a breath work I do daily, but the more you practice it, the more you get in tune with your body, then you can start to really develop your intuition. And your intuition is going to guide you through life, and your intuition will never mislead you.
No, it won't. It's never wrong.
It may take you on a detour for a life lesson, but it's never going to put you in a compromised situation.
That's true. And I would like to say too, when you go on that quote unquote detour, you may feel overwhelmed, but that's because you don't trust that you have the skills you need to get through that, and your highest self knows you do. Usually underestimating your own power when you feel overwhelmed, which is a human reaction. Like our little human mind goes, ah, and that's when we have to get grounded,
Mm-hmm.
use that heart breath. I love that. So an empathic person or any of my little witch babies, they can use that breath anytime they're feeling overwhelmed with other people's emotions, with the information that's coming into them. They can just take 3 breaths into their heart space, count of 4 in, hold for 4, count of 4 out. And that bright golden light or any color that really vibes with.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
color. Right. And you know, it's a really another great technique is okay, so maybe you're overwhelmed with emotion or feelings or
Other people's feelings.
yours. Yeah. You're not sure if it's yours or theirs. Doing that heart breath. And then after those 3 breaths, ask yourself, is this mine or not? And your intuition's going to tell you.
Yeah.
And if you know it's not yours, then you can say, okay, I need to release it, or I release this. This is not mine. And if it is yours, then that's the time to really seek some help, professional help, to be able to work through whatever is coming up for you.
Oh, beautiful, Emily. So beautiful. So anyone out there, Emily does one-on-one coaching. She has a YouTube channel. what else do you have that how can we reach you? What's your website?
Yeah, my website's just emilykady.com. It's Kady, not Ty. So,
And so we'll put our links in the show notes as always. Emily, thank you so much.
oh, thank you so much, Jody Ann, and thank you for all the work you're doing. I am so grateful our paths crossed, and I hope that we continue to do some work together. And yeah, you're just such a beautiful, bright light that we definitely need. So thank you. Keep shining.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I love the work you're doing. It's very close to my heart. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We did it. Awesome.
So awesome. You can see my expression, hey, on Zoom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thinking, I'm like, whoa. I'm looking at our time. I want to keep talking to you. But I also respect your time. It's my fault, really. Okay, let's go to 12:15. That gives you 15 minutes. Okay, good, because I don't want to rush because we're at this beautiful, juicy place.
I know, right?